Hey, I'm Stupid Archer and welcome to my channel. This is a video about custom-made carbon and bamboo limbs for the Black Hunter longbow. In this video we will show you how to make from the start till the end, how to make custom bamboo and carbon limbs for your Black Hunter, and I'm with the bow builder Mr. Luzimpali, and we started with putting some tape over the fiberglass that we don't scratch up the side what will finish on the front of the bow. After that we were measuring the middle of fiberglass stripe and we were cutting it in half. We sanded fiberglass that the adhesion from the glue is 100%. And we did the same for the wedge what's coming into the lower part of the limb. So we made the surfaces rough also for the bamboo cores as well.
Bürste, nicht mit die Hände, sonst kriegst du die Fasern in die Hand.
Ja.
Mit Bürste reinigen dann. So, und auf geht's zu dem nächsten.
After we made all of the surfaces quite rough, that they can take the glue properly, we were putting two carbon stripes on the fiberglass and we were gluing all components together. We have 2 times fiberglass, 2 times carbon, and 3 cores made out of bamboo, and the wedge made out of extremely hard wood. After that, we sandwiched it all together and we put it in a limb form, what Mr. Polly has prepared for me. And first we started with plastic wrap to secure all of the components, and after that came the second part of the form, which comes directly on top. In between the forms is a pressurized hose that will make 4.5 bars of pressure so that the limbs are getting quite a good squeeze, and that the glue can spread around and that the limbs can have a proper glue spread all over. Of course, we checked along the way if is everything aligned, if there are some little mistakes or something, because that is crucial. You need to check everything, and after that we have put the lock screws in that nothing cannot move. When we apply the pressure, that the form is rigid, that we don't get any problems down the road. This is crucial. Don't rush this process, because better be safe than sorry. After that, we check the oven. It needs to have 45 degrees Celsius or 113 Fahrenheit. And the limbs, they need to bake for around 2 hours, the glue to harden, so we can work with them and that they're completely cured. We closed everything that the heat cannot come out and that we have consistent heat, which is quite important, that you don't have any fluctuations in the heat. It is the next day and we were working the evening before quite till late, so we decided to continue this process. The next day we took the form with the limbs out and we started to disassemble the form. First we took a pressure of the hose because it was still pressurized on 4.5 bar, and we took the screws out. And this was kind of nerve-wracking because I never did this, and I pulled the form out and I took some piece with it, and I thought I broke something, but I didn't. And then we started to unwrap the clear film, because this is the very important part, because usually the limb would be stuck for the form. So wrap every individual piece of the form with the clear film, and that will make your life easier because you can just rip the clear film off with the glue and with all of the glue residue that you have still on. And I don't need to say that you need to be careful as well. So don't you just cut into your limb or just break something. Just keep a low pressure on and take the limb off.
So schaut er
And
aus.
this was my first limb.
Mein erster Wurfang. Also, mein.
Deine, und das ist der zweite.
Ja.
We repeated the whole process for the second limb, so I didn't show you that. And after that, we started to grind and take off some glue residue and make the limb get a low rough shape. After the glue was completely sanded away, we went to the machine sander and started to measure, or the Mr. Poly has started to measure that each individual limb looks completely the same, or that it has the same measurements. And you can see here is checking every pass through the machine, is checking it. Is checking it that is completely same, and that is square on every part of the limb. This is very important because this could lead to difficulties in next steps that we are going to take. That's why the both limbs are going in the machine now, and he's sending them that they are completely identical. After we were done with the machine sander, it took the file and it started to remove the edges, because through the machine sanding there is some little edges. He cleans always along the way. Every movement he does is cleaning after it, so it's extremely clean. He needs to have extreme perfect surfaces for the next thing that he needs to do. So, and he cleans his tools and his working space all the time, that there is no unwanted debris somewhere or damaging the bow or any of the processes. After the limbs were clean, he was measuring and marking the holes for the limbs to get bolt on. We have one bolt and we have two metal rods that they are going to fixate the limb in a right place, that they cannot move left and right. As always, using a square and the measuring devices just to make sure that it's always having a perfect middle, and that is not having any trouble with drilling, because the next stop is the drilling. This is quite nerve-wracking as well, because we needed to make the little stencil for the holes. This is completely handmade stencil, and then it was holding it on or putting it in a vise, and it was drilling it first for the metal rods, and after that came for the limb bolts. After drilling was done, it was securing the limbs with some tape, checked for the straightness. The bow was extremely straight. You can see it just doesn't have any twists or any problems.
Ist Kerzengrad. Filme nach oben. Du siehst ja, wie gerade ist.
After we were 100% sure that the bow is straight, we marked some markings with a Sharpie on a riser to know where to cut, and punched the hole for the limb screw. You got to measure a lot, because those Chinese bows and those Chinese risers are never completely straight. His limbs are straight, but the risers from China, they are never 100%.
3 und da hast du 23. 1. 22, 8. Siehst du, was
Ja,
ich meine? Das ist
das sind die
mein
Unterschiede
Problem.
bei
Genau.
chinesischen Bögen.
Because of the differences in riser, it was not just drilling a hole. You needed to make freehand adjustments and make more or less custom-made holes for that bow that still can keep its straightness, and that the screw doesn't grind on the hole. This process took several attempts, just to make sure that we don't take too much material off, because if you have too big of a hole or you cannot put the material back, I guess that's what I mean to say.
Jetzt passt.
Voll.
Warum? 32
Weil 32 mal 2
sind 64.
64.
So legen wir den jetzt so drauf. Das ist jetzt für die Tipps. Und dann von da nach da nochmal 1 Zoll, ungefähr 2,54 Zentimeter, 1 Zoll. Und da wird gekürzt.
Jawohl.
Also man kann auch die Wurfformen gleich nebeneinander stellen, weil die sehr genau sind beide. Dann kann man die Striche weitermachen, aber ich messe immer mal, um zu schauen, ob ich wirklich sehr genau mit dem Wurfarmaufnahme bin. Nicht, dass einer mir doch länger ist und einer kürzer.
Jawohl.
Und so prüfe ich jetzt auch gleichzeitig meine Arbeit. Also hier Tipps und hier wird geschnitten. Ich brauche Anhaltspunkte. Wo fange ich an, den Wurfarm zu verjüngern? Also ich markiere jetzt die Anhaltspunkte für die Schräge.
We are finally now coming to the moment where the longbow limbs are getting their shape. So it marked the middle, it marked how the tips are going to, or the width of the tips, and is marking now the sloping or the shape of the longbow. And we will cut it now. He was cutting it very carefully so it doesn't overheat the material and breaks the glue or the limbs.
Das sind deine neue Wurfarme jetzt.
Ah, so groß gleich.
Gleich 4 Stück.
Ah, da habe ich ja 2 Bögen. Danke.
Bitte
Danke,
schön.
Meister Pali.
Kein Problem.
Dankeschön. Dann gehe ich ja mal. Servus.
All of the leftover pieces, all of the pieces from cutting is testing to see if the glue adhesion was 100%. So here we can see is watching, and if the only wood breaks, that means the glue adhesion was 100%. As you can see, only the wood and materials that are inside are breaking, but not the glue. After the rough shape was cut, we took the film that was on it so that we don't scratch it, and we are preparing it for the next step, which would be gluing the tips on and sanding the tips and making the string grooves. Here we are deciding the size of the tips and how deep we should sand.
Daher schleife ich jetzt.
After all of the surfaces were sanded and clean, he was cutting the 2 pieces out of mica and 2 pieces of carbon, which we glued together to make the tips rigid, to make them be able to shoot any string materials as fast flight or any other bow string materials.
Perfekt.
Also Fläche anrauen und putzen.
Mit 80er Körnung.
80er Körnung.
Und dann dünnflüssigen Sekundkleber.
Jawohl.
Bis richtig reagiert.
If you're wondering why is he working with the super glue and not using the gloves, he said that the gloves are extremely quickly gluing on it, and this you don't have much time to stick that perfectly, and the gloves just make problems. So he does it always with bare hands because the gloves make quite a lot of problems.
Aktivator. So, dann legen wir den auf die Seite.
After the glue was dried or cured, we sanded this material as well, and he was cutting the carbon. And carbon got the same treatment, so it was sanding it, making it clean, glued it on, and that was our tips. He took it then to the belt sander and gave the tips a rough shape, and after that I didn't know what I should expect, because I thought it's having some stencils for this. No, he did it freehandly. So first he made the string grooves, and after that he started to use sanding paper and other different files, and he filed the notches in, and he filed the tips into the shape.
Und keine Vorwärts-Rückwärts-Bewegung.
Eine Richtung.
Immer eine Richtung, sonst rupfst du das Glas hinten ab.
Ja.
Sieht gut aus.
Said you should do this one directionally, always in one direction, not to make the damage to the glass backing. And this is now how the tips are getting a final shape. We made sure that the tips are not having any rough edges or some sharp edges that we can put a string on and shoot it on the same day. The tests were quite interesting. They are coming on the end of this video, and this video will be part 1 of 2 videos, because in the second part we are finishing this bow, putting a varnish on it, putting a custom-made wooden quiver on it, and this will be the best 3D bow that I own, and probably the prettiest. So stay tuned for the video in the future, and you can see him finalize these beautiful black and white carbon tips, giving it a rough shape or light sand that we can shoot it and be prepared for the tests. Make sure to follow me and Mr. Polly's channel so that you don't miss the cool projects in the future. Thank you and see you next
Also
time.
gut, jetzt haben wir für den Bogen eine Sehne gefunden. Jetzt wissen wir natürlich noch nicht, ob die 50 Pfund hat. Hier.
Ziehen.
Einfach mal ziehen. Gut. Was sagt die Zugewichtwaage?
Was habe ich geschätzt?
Ja, 55 hast du gesagt, 55 hat er. Aber der wird nochmal abspecken. Aber du sagst, der fühlt sich weich an.
Fühlt sich sehr weich an.
Okay, wir wissen jetzt, der hat 54 Pfund. Leg mal los. Handschuhe. Also wir haben jetzt einen 64 Zoll Bogen und 54 Pfund hat er aktuell. Also der wird noch 2-3 Pfund verlieren beim Finishen und das Ganze. Und das ist der erste Testschuss. Auf geht's. Jawohl. Ja, das war der erste Testschuss.
Erster Testschuss.
Und wie war das mit dem Tiller?
Tiller war perfekt.
Da haben wir
Erster Versuch, perfektes Tiller.
0 Tiller, weil der Kollege 3 drunter schießt. Die Sehne vibriert ein bisschen. Das ist irgend so eine Pille-Palle-Sehne jetzt. Und wie wirft er?
Unglaublich gut.
Super, freut mich.
Steve the Archer here. I'm here with Mr. Polly, and we have the rough shape for my bow done, and we will test this piece with the arrow that has 5.7 GBP. The bow has 55 or 54 pounds right now, and the overall length of the bow is 64 inches. So let's see. $215. It is a performance monster. It will be the great addition to my bows. Thank you, Mr. Polly.
You're welcome.